I'm Jeff Fiddle. You can follow me on the X at That Happens. He is Chad Rink. I always want to do that. Follow him on the X at Chad Ochorinco. Website is fanstreamsports.com. The FanStream Sports app is available for Apple and Android for round-the-clock programming on the go. We've got a lot of great shows on FanStream Sports. And the FanStream Sports Facebook group, you can go to that to interact. Join that with the hosts and other fans. You can do that as well. So that's on Facebook, FanStream Sports Facebook group. Go join that. And again, lots of great shows are on the app all the time, including this one right here. And every day, Chad, we got more news as we're winding down with the fantasy football drafts for the season. And today we got the news about Cooper Kupp. And you and I both had drafts to do tonight. Cooper Kupp had a setback with his hamstring injury. They said, big deal, thinks he'll be fine. Hopes to have him back for week one. We're not sure. But how did that affect the drafts you were doing tonight? And how did that affect this being Thursday night? And how did that affect your value on Cooper Kupp?
So, he's kind of been falling even before this happened, and he was really going as the third receiver off the board. He started slipping behind Tyreek Hill, and then he was even getting jumped by Kelsey, Chubb, Bijan. So he was more likely. He's ended up 9-10 a lot of times in the first round. I did 2 QB1 today, so he ended up in the early third on that one. So I've been staying away from him just because he was always costing you a first round pick, and I just liked other guys there. I think this will probably drop him down in the second round. I think guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think Garrett Wilson probably slides ahead of him because it's a hamstring injury too. So it's one of those that could linger all year. There were already questions about his health anyway. So he's gonna be one of those guys. I think in the third round, if he, mid-late third, he, take a flyer on him, especially if it's a PPR. A PPR is one I would take a chance on him in the third because he could, even if he plays 8 games, he could have 80 receptions in 8 games. So that's where I'd focus on it. Other than that, I'm probably staying away.
Yeah, I am too. He's dropping for sure. In all the drafts I did 5 today, I think it was total. In all the drafts I did, he was certainly sliding down further. You could get him early second round today. Okay. And I wasn't in a position where I had to make a decision because I wasn't going to take him. Where I was drafting these drafts, there was not really a spot. I was like, you know what, this is good value. If he'd have fallen to me late second round, I would have. When I'm in the top half of the first, just because Cooper Kupp's there, I took Bijan one time over him, I think. So, yeah, he wasn't in a position where I could grab him. But I did see him falling, though, from that top 5 pick, maybe, to, into the second round, like the second, third, or fourth pick in the second round is what I saw from him. And I want no part of that kind of durability issues. And Kupp was great last year until he got hurt. But the injury then, he gets hurt last year, hamstring injury this year, comes back from it, setback. I'm scared to death. I'm not going to waste a high draft pick on something like that.
No, I'm with you. There's too many other good receivers that are in that range. Like I said, I would rather have Calvin Ridley, Olave. Those guys are usually been falling behind him, but I'd rather have both those guys over him. I tell you, I'd probably even prefer having DJ Moore over Cooper Kupp at this point too. So I hadn't been drafting him a lot before this, and then I'm really staying away from him. So let someone else draft him, and if it pans out, fine. If not, you avoided it.
I know we touched about this the other day when the news first came down about Jonathan Taylor, but the fact he's out at least the first 4 games. There's rumors about, well, maybe he really is still hurt, and that's why he's on the PUP list. Maybe he's having a setback with his ankle injury from last year, his recovery from that. And maybe that's why he's on the PUP list still. He's another guy I'm not touching at all. I know you had a situation where 8th or 9th round he was available, and at that point you do grab him. I think you would grab and stash him. But I'm trying to think the earliest I would take a Jonathan Taylor. God, it might be the 7th or 8th round. That might be the earliest I would want to take Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, it was just a standard draft, and I kept seeing he's still here, and it was pick 91, so it was the 807 in a 12 team, so, or 806 or something like that. So right. I'm at that point, I'm like, okay, I've got all my starters. That's the thing I think with Jonathan Taylor. Once you hit all your starters, unless you're just punting tight end, then I think you can start thinking about it. But I really think he could sit out. Like if I'm Taylor, if I'm in Taylor's camp, what's it going to benefit him to play this year? You've already missed camp. You're missing 4 games. You're not going to be in shape. You could get hurt, and you don't want to play for the Colts. If you get hurt, you pretty much are screwed for getting any kind of money, and that's what you want this next contract. So you hold out all year, and then maybe at that point the Colts can move him, and maybe a team would, go after him. Did you hear what the Colts wanted from the Dolphins for Taylor?
Oh yeah, it was like, wasn't it Jalen Waddle or something?
It was Jalen Waddle in a first. It was like,
there's no way.
I've had those. Those are the kind of trades. That's why I got out of the basketball league. Those are the kind of trades I got from that one team all the time. Dirk Digglers would just offer you trades like that. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So
yeah, I'm with you. Makes no sense.
No, I was just gonna say So that's where I'm taking him. Like 8th round's probably when I start thinking if he's there.
Well, the benefit from coming back to play though is if he sits out the entire year, that does not prevent him from the year doesn't count. Like he still is on his contract, still stays the same, and he can still be tagged and all. But that's what happened with Le'Veon Bell when he kept sitting out or whatever. And then like it got to the point where it just screwed him completely. So I think he'll play somewhere this year. Now he might not play till week 8 or 9, but I think he will play somewhere this year. I know he doesn't want to play in Indy. He'd much rather play in Miami or somewhere else, but someone to give him a contract extension. But I think he's going to play somewhere. But again, I'm not going to waste a lot of draft capital on a guy that might play the second half of the season, and who knows what kind of shape he'll be in. Even though he's only 24 years old, he still has a ton of carries, ton of touches from his last couple of years of Wisconsin into the NFL. It's been a lot of work on his body for that. So, other news: Jeff Wilson out at least the first 4 weeks. Right? Is that the news on him, the running back?
Yeah, I just saw that. My buddy texted me. He said Wilson's out for 4 weeks. I kept seeing it on Twitter. All the people that don't follow the zero running back strategy are loving this because Jeff Wilson was like one of the darlings those guys would get. So it's kind of nice for us that are drafting now because it kind of clears things up in Miami because now Mostert kind of is a guy you may want to target because A-Chain's got a shoulder injury.
Right.
And so Mostert, I was kind of staying away from this whole backfield, but with Wilson being out, A-Chain already kind of banged up. I think McDaniel having the history knowing Mostert, and you're going to rely on a veteran. And Mostert has put up some nice fantasy games when he's healthy. So with that offense, I'm starting to look at him now, as probably like RB3 at the earliest. Is what I would do, even if you're going 0 RB. But it's interesting. I was never really on Jeff Wilson. I was really A-Chain of all of them, and I didn't really want any of the other two. But now Mostert kind of becomes a little bit interesting. Yeah,
I think so too. The first 4 weeks, look, if nothing else, Mostert gets a chance to secure the job. If he goes out there and performs, he will be the guy going forward until he doesn't perform. But if he goes out and lays an egg for a couple of games, then all of a sudden they're going to be looking at other options. And who knows, one of those options could be Jonathan Taylor at that point. But Mostert, though, at least right now has a chance to establish himself as the best back on that team. And so, yeah, it clears up a little bit with the injuries. I hate seeing the injuries, but I like seeing it cleared up for us kind of thing. So what other trends, do you notice anything else different tonight than from past drafts you've done? Was there something strategically that fell into your lap or something you pursued that you might not have done in previous drafts that either worked out for you or a different change, a different kind of draft you did tonight?
Well, tonight I did a 2 QB, so it was 2 QB and a full PPR, so it's just a little bit different. So I did 2 last night. I had an auction and a snake. Auctions are just a different beast in and of itself. I love them, but they're just totally different. But I think the big thing is there hasn't been a big change in the quarterbacks. They're all kind of still falling in the same spot, going in the same order. You'll have a couple flip-flopping of, like Burrow, Jackson, and Fields are just kind of like whoever's drafting what their preference is, but they're all still mostly going over Herbert. And I think that's just weird. I think people are napping on Herbert. So That's just the weirdest thing. I haven't seen too much now. Like, I saw like today, like someone took Sam Howell, not early, but like as their second QB, but it was like there were still, I think, guys like, I think Carr was still on the board. I ended up getting Purdy later. So that's going to be interesting to see if, as things go, is he going to slide in somewhere in that Pickett range? But it's still kind of, everything's still kind of the same. It's just whoever, like the receivers that are all in that second round, just depends who likes who better. If you like Garrett Wilson, if you like St. Brown. Chubb, though, Chubb's the big one that he's going top 5. I've seen a lot here over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I've seen that also. I've seen Chubb jump up the charts like that. I still see Bijan going early. I saw Bijan going to draft today before Barkley, which doesn't surprise me that much, I guess. How much he's getting. But I've seen, and in a couple of drafts I've done, I have found that the quarterbacks that I used to be able to wait on, it's gotten a little bit more difficult sometimes to gauge where they're going. People are grabbing, I don't know if just because it's close to season or what, but I'm finding in standard leagues, though, where you and I could get the guys we love, Herbert and Lawrence, at a certain point. I feel like now they're going about a round earlier than they used to. There's more quarterback runs that are starting earlier in drafts, which normally I would say that's great. I'll just keep taking, receivers and running backs or tight ends or whatever, but I think there's such a drop-off after Lawrence that I found myself chasing a quarterback earlier than I usually would want to, if that makes sense.
It does, and I saw that today or yesterday in one of them. Or I might have just doing a mock today, where Herbert was now going in the 5th. So, that's kind of where I'm looking at the 5th round. I'm like, okay, I'll probably take a quarterback because I still like the value at running back that's later on there as well. And stuff like that. So it's just, no, if you're in a league of people that kind of know their trends, know who they like. And then, like I said, always, if you like a guy, I don't mind taking a guy around earlier if you really, really want that guy, just so you don't have regret of, man, I should have grabbed him. Right. And that kind of thing. So, go for those guys. So, yeah, but other than that, like it's a lot of the same. It's just, as this now with this news, it's going to be interesting to see where Mostert jumps up if A-Chain goes up more. Right. It seems like some of these backups, like it seems like as the season gets closer, like Bigsby, Charbonnet, those type of guys, I think start creeping up a little bit earlier because people either will start handcuffing them earlier, or people think, hey, these guys could give you good value. So those guys kind of creep up as the season nears as well.
All right, so let's talk now. We'll kind of wrap up on this about DFS strategies, because daily fantasy is a huge thing. It's gotten even bigger over the years, especially now we're in Columbus, Ohio. It's with all the legal gambling going on now. But DFS is such a big thing, and I have done inconsistently okay. Like, I'm sure, far and away, I'm not ahead in DFS. I don't do well enough there. Right. But I know you've had success with it. So I want to get your insight, what your strategies are when you look at DFS for this first week of games coming up here pretty soon. But when you're doing DFS, what are some things or some of your hard rules when it comes to DFS?
Okay, yeah. So I did not start off doing well in DFS because I didn't really I understood it, but it was just certain things I didn't see that were kind of important. And the first one is what contest you're getting in, because the key is you want to max out the entries. So most contests are going to either be single entry, you just get one entry, something like a 3 entry one, a 20 entry one, or a lot of the ones that are the max, like 150 max. So once you get you'll see a lot this first weekend, like DraftKings, FanDuel, they'll want people to come in. So some of the pricing is a little bit softer this first week, and they want people to come in because like, hey, $5 to win $1 million, $10 to win $1 million, and people will throw one bullet in there, which is fine if you're having fun. But if you have one entry going up against another guy that's got 150, and then you multiply that 150 entry with probably thousands of people that are doing the max entry on that, like the professional DFSers, you're just going to be behind the 8 ball unless you just luck out. So I think starting off contest, you want to max out. So whatever your budget is, and if you want to play a little bit higher, if you want, hey, I can do $20. Like I always like the 20 entry max and do it like a quarter an entry, or just single entries are always like two, especially on smaller slates. So that's the key, because you want to kind of max out your chances of winning. So you want to max out your entries. So check in what the entries are. Second one too is just, which is if you listen to any of the DFS guys that talk about it, and especially in football, baseball a little bit, but football, it's stacking. So what that is you have quarterback, and then you stack at least one, sometimes two, most of these receivers, unless you have a guy like an Eckler or McCaffrey, then you can throw them in. But because the reasoning behind it is you want to get the game that's going to shoot out. Because if you have a quarterback, two running backs, three receivers, and a tight end, and a flex. So those are 7 spots. If you took 7 people from 7 different games, then you're relying on 7 separate things hitting for you to win. Where if you decide, hey, I want to hit, like if you talk about this Sunday game, the 4:00 game, there's the Chargers game, which is probably going to be slated at around 50 as an over-under. So if you go, listen, that's the game I want to target, what you want to do is pick a side, and both sides are great, but you're probably going to end up taking the Tua, Waddle, Hill side.
Right.
And then what you want to do is run it back. They call it a run back. So if you stack with the Dolphins, you want to run back with someone on the other side. Okay. And that could be like, a lot of times you can just go, you could go Eckler, but that if you have Hill, Eckler, Waddle, it's going to cost you a lot.
Sure.
So a lot of times you go, if you like Johnson, sometimes you go Everett, somebody, but you want to stack someone on the other side because you figure this game's going to shoot out. And that kind of leads to the game script. So if you think, especially in a game like, hey, if this team's going to be ahead, like most times in the Chiefs, if you're stacking the Chiefs, right, you want to grab a receiver on the other end because you figure the Chiefs are going to be ahead and they're going to be throwing. So you want to stack, and you want to, I've had the most success when I kind of just focus on 2 main games. Okay. So it's like you have your main stack. If you're doing that Dolphin stack, if you go Dolphin stack and you run it back with Everett as your tight end, that's going to be 4 spots. So you still have 3 spots. So then what you want to do is kind of pick another game and do what they call a mini stack, and then pick, 2 guys from that and then run it back with 1. So now you're just thinking, okay, these 2 games, if these 2 games hit, then you're going to be in good shape. So stacking's pretty big in football in a big slate. It's like, the Sunday slate, that kind of thing. Right. So that's the big one. And then you want to look at, they do have the showdown slates where like they will have it Thursday night. So any like single standalone game, Monday Night Football, Sunday night, Thursday night. And then you can just choose to do a showdown slate on any game if you want. But those are the big ones. They usually have the bigger prizes. And that one, it's a little bit different because you've got to really be unique. Like during the regular games and stuff, you got to be somewhat unique, because if you have like 5 guys that are all pretty popular, the same, you could end up splitting money. But with the showdown, it's really, you got to really be kind of unique, because what you're doing, you have 6 spots, and you have to put one person in the captain, which they get 1.5 times their points. So you want to put the right person you think is going to score the highest points, but their salary is also 1.5 times more than everybody else, and then you fill it in with the rest of them. So if you're doing showdown, I like showdown because then like it's just all your marbles in this one game, right? But you've got to when you're doing showdown, that's when you were like, listen, what's this game? What do you think this game's going to be? And then if you think, hey, I think the Bengals are going to just smash the Browns, and what you want to do is you want to choose, because you have to have at least one guy from each team in a showdown slate. So if you think a team's just it's going to be lopsided, you want to go 5-1 or even a 4-2 on that. So I remember I won one. It was a Bengals Browns Sunday night game, and I won. And I saw I won like $200 and some, and it was like, I think I put $5 in. I'm like, I thought this thing was like a $5,000 prize. I looked, I won, and I tied with like 236 of my closest friends. Right. And it was like, that's the part. It was just one of those things where like all the chalk hit. It was a high scoring game. So it was like, I was happy I won, but it was like, oh man. So that uniqueness, especially in the showdown, So as we get into DFS, as the season hits, because I think we'll talk about that some too, because that's huge, and it's a nice little thing to do, on top of your season, especially if you start off like 0-6 and you're done, just move it all to DFS.
Move it to DFS.
Yeah, so we'll kind of hit that more, but like those are the main ones that you're really looking at to kind of help put you in a position to make a little money.
But still, if you're 0-6, get a damn lineup in. Don't hold on the season. Don't be that owner who does that. You got to make sure you always keep your lineups in, keep it competitive all the way through.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Or the fantasy gods will rain down on you. So, all right, Jed. Yeah, the DFS stuff, that's all fascinating. You're the expert on that. We'll do a lot more of that as the season goes on. Again, go to fantasysports.com. The Fantasy Sports app's available for Apple and Android, and for round-the-clock programming on the go. You can always get that. Fantasy Sports Facebook group. You can talk to the hosts and other fans of our shows and all that. There's so many great shows on Fantasy Sports, powered by DSP Media. Chad, let's do it again, man. We're inching closer. A week from today. We're doing this Thursday. A week from today, we got Eagles, Lions, and Chiefs.
Yep, it's gonna be exciting. I am so pumped.
Can't wait. All right, brother. Have a good night.
You too.